43 episodes. This is Wayne's World. Where's Wayne and Kelly? Wayne is at 30,000 feet today, flying from New Smyrna Beach. Well, I guess you don't have an airport, somewhere where he had to go to catch a plane because they don't really have them in New Smyrna Beach. And he's flying somewhere, probably Chicago or somewhere fancy like that. But today we have two first. We have our first. It gives me chills to think that we have our first guest host. Everyone knows her. She needs no introduction. Noucelle Hastings. Like to welcome you. And also, for the Miami Hurricane fans, back when they were in a slump, this was their quarterback. They got better later. No, I'm just kidding. Also, the founder, the superstar, the CEO of Best Roofing, Greg. I joke around a lot, but I'm truly honored you took the time to come out and join us today, because I love the way you do business. And I'm an owner's rep. I have no favorites, but your facility, the motivational stuff all over the place, how you guys just put so much into your business. Greg Wallick, I'd like to just welcome you to Wayne's World and Kelly, the 43rd episode. How are you this morning, brother?
I'm great. I'm just wondering why it took 43 episodes to get on your show.
Hey, listen, there's a lot of people that are never going to make the show, pal. So just,
I made the cut. I'm happy.
Yeah, no,
I'm on the team.
Greg, look at it this way: you got Miami Heat, you got the Panthers, and you got Best. It's the week for the show, baby.
It's a big week. And I'll tell you what, I've known Wayne for coming up on 5 years. Never has invited me golfing.
That can be
handled. He's not here to speak for himself.
Now that I'm on your show, you get an invite.
I've done everything I can. So finally,
I got my golf hat
on. I got my special glasses today. The future's so bright in Southern Florida, or South Florida, as I like to call it, that you got to wear shades. I mean, and one of the reasons why is because people like Greg started a business years ago and has grown it and grown it and grown it. And then the world came here because of Greg, basically. Otherwise, people want to live here. I mean, we don't have the best weather. We don't have the best beaches. We don't have the best people, but we do have Best Roofing. So now everybody, and we don't get political on here, but Governor Newsom, I just saw what you said, saying that Florida and Texas were nothing next to California. What is wrong with that guy? Listen, California and Texas, move here. We got plenty of work. Greg is hiring. Are you not hiring?
Oh yeah, we definitely are hiring.
Because there's a lot of business out there, and it's getting better and better.
He's hiring, Kelly, and he's got street signs all on the highway. He's got those mile-high signs. Come to Florida. Best is hiring. You heard it here.
Right.
Thank you.
So, Greg, we know your history. Tell everybody who doesn't know your history a little about how you started out in the world. Were you a test tube baby or natural birth?
No, natural birth. Natural birth. Grew up in Orlando, Florida. Went to high school there. Got a scholarship to the University of Miami. Came down and I was not the quarterback. I was a defensive captain, linebacker.
Oh my God! Why did I always?
Yeah, I don't know how you blew that one, but it's okay. I'm gonna.
Come on, show prep people. What's going on?
Yeah. So
I always thought you were
You was making moves for others.
You act like a quarterback, but defensive captain. That's even better.
Yeah. So I stayed on and coached for a couple of years for the Hurricanes as a graduate assistant. And then I got into the roofing business after that with my dad and worked for him for about 8 years back in Orlando. And then my heart's always been in South Florida, moved back down here and started my own business in 1987. And, been a professional commercial roofing contractor really ever since then, servicing this community. and loving it. I got a couple of kids in the business. We have about 350 employees, and we specialize in you know, commercial roofing projects with a real emphasis on the condominium world, multifamily world, high rises. When it comes to high rises, that's really, you know, one of our real specialties, and that's a very challenging, you know, roofing project is anytime you do a high rise.
Oh, I've heard about that.
That's the,
So,
that's the short version.
right. But it's neat. And like, so y'all were having trouble getting rid of debris. So what did you do? Because you were having trouble getting rid of debris.
Well, I couldn't get Waste Management or Republic to pick up on time, so we went out and bought our own roll-off trucks, and today we have, like, you know, 25 roll-off cans and 3 trucks that are just running around between our jobs, making sure that we don't have any delays, you know.
I mean, that's a big difference. I mean, people don't understand, you know, some companies are just out there trying to make money or whatever, but every time you run into an issue, you attack it and solve it. And I find that, you know, very inspirational, because it's, you know, oh yes, you don't pass the buck and say, well, it's not our fault. It's Waste Management's fault. Hey, and we love Waste Management, not to pick on them.
That's probably why you keep calling him a quarterback.
I love Huizinga. Huizinga he's one of my business heroes. But you're right. If you're going to control it, you got to control it.
Yeah.
Now, how
So
about
we
with fabrication? Did you have any fabrication issues?
Yeah, we did the same thing with sheet metal. You know, we couldn't get sheet metal in a timely fashion, so we brought that in-house. We did the same thing with our cranes. You know, we couldn't get crane rentals out on time, so, you know, we started with 1 crane, and today we have 4 cranes that are running between our projects.
How cool
So,
is
you know,
that?
we're try to be as self-contained and under control as possible.
Right. And you really
Control the
control.
narrative.
Go ahead. Yes, host. Yes. Huh?
No, I said it's the best way to be, controlling the narrative. I love it.
And controlling it. I mean, the production in your building, you've got all the steps of what y'all do. I mean, y'all are very, very planned out on everything you do. And that's so important. It's amazing how many companies that have been around for a long time that they don't have procedures and practices in place. You drill them into your team's head.
Well, we've built a system to run the business, and then we teach people how to run the system. And we have a very defined methodology, 31 steps in a construction project, 24 steps in a service project. If you follow the steps, you're going to have success. If you don't, you know, you're going to stumble a little bit and it won't be as successful. So it's easy. It's easy.
Yeah. But it's shocking that not every company does it. You know, there's a lot to be learned by doing it right. Now, did y'all start out as good roofing and then you became the best, or did you start out right off the top with that?
Well, no, we've always been best roofing, you know, and then we kind of, I will tell you this, we had to grow into it. Okay. It wasn't always best roofing, you know.
It's like dress for success, you know?
Yeah. Right.
Fake it till you make it. But y'all made it for a long time. You know, I don't know why, but this morning before we came on, I was thinking about that knucklehead guy that's got the show about the 2 in between the ferns or something like that. And I'm sitting there, I'm like going, what kind of just off the wall questions can I ask Greg to try to keep him off base? But I'll behave. So what other things do y'all do? I know y'all are famous for your cakes at Christmas. Do you actually make them all yourself?
Cakes? Well,
Jake cakes.
Do we have a Jake cake here? You have one?
Yeah. It's in my refrigerator.
All right, so
I use mine as a doorstop.
Oh, come on. Don't tell my wife that.
I'm kidding.
Jake cakes are something that we do when we complete a large project and we go out to sit down with our closeout book and just kind of go through, you know, all right, we completed the project. Now we have to start the relationship, which every roof that gets installed, must have some sort of a maintenance agreement with it. Your insurance company is going to require it. The people who are warranting it are going to require it. And it's just a commitment to an ongoing relationship. And what we do is we deliver a Jake cake. Now, a Jake cake is a cake that's formed like our mascot, Jake. He's my boxer. And we're on Jake 3. So, you know, I'm glad to say I've outlived all the Jakes, but we bring Jake cake in, and my wife makes these every Sunday night. She makes 8 of them. Okay, here we are.
She really does make them? Oh, man.
Oh yeah, she makes them. Here we are. Here we are right there. You can see that little puppy peeking out of that.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love it.
Liz makes the cakes, and they're unbelievable. They're gluten-free. They're not fattening. They have 0 calories. Maybe.
Right.
Yeah. But they're great.
They
They're
have
great.
0 calories.
Yeah, 0 calories. But it's just a nice little touch that we try to, you know, thank somebody for giving us the opportunity to work with them. And
Well, that I did not know. So that's very cool that she actually makes them. I was kidding about the doorstop, of course. But I mean, it really is a family business. I mean, it's a big family. You have your biological family, and then you've got your team, and you know, you just have a good culture at your company, which I think is extremely important when people are looking to do business with somebody, and also people are looking for employment. You don't want to just be a number.
I have a saying: everybody's got to win. The client's got to win. The employee's got to win. The company's got to win. Everybody's
Right.
got to win. And it's a balance, and you just have to maintain that balance. Because if everybody doesn't win, it's not a good deal. So
Right.
that's how I choose to run this place.
Now, how is it with the father son? You know, Ian works for you, who's just a great guy, and I've worked with companies where you've had the adult children work for the company, and you go, one might be watching, so I'm not going to mention about this one, but man, great leaders, but or their kids weren't. They needed to find another career. But then you have other ones that actually meld in real well. Is there ever a time where, I mean, y'all just remove your hats and it's not dad and son, it's boss and Ian?
Well, you know, it starts when they're young. Just teaching your children how to have a work ethic, and you know, in both of my sons' offices, Zach was with us for like 10 years and had a desire to want to have his own business, and I was just really proud to help him get a residential business started. But and Ian, my other son, he's our senior vice president of operations today. He's been with the company over 10 years. But when they were all growing up, every Saturday we had this ritual called mow, edge, and blow. Okay. Mow, edge, and blow. And you had to mow, edge, and blow the yard before you would get you know, your allowance. And you know, I made sure that they had a work ethic, and they understood that, you know, money just doesn't grow on trees. You got to go out there and earn it. And that's probably the biggest thing that every one of us as a parent needs to do, is prepare our children for life, and let them know that things aren't going to get handed to you, and you know, you're going to have to work for it.
Right. So when I was growing up, it was mow, edge, and sweep.
Oh, okay.
You know, and then the blower came later. So you had to sweep all the clippings off the street, and you know, I remember telling my dad, I was probably like 9 years old, because I was the youngest of 9. I took all their chores over because I wanted to be like them, and I was stuck with them forever. But I remember telling my dad, I said, I blew all the grass into the street, because we lived in a residential neighborhood. And he's like, you got to sweep all that up. I'm like, Dad, it's not ours. It's in the street. And yeah, that didn't go well.
Your dad was teaching you really life lessons there.
Oh, and he was out working on his golf game. after, and then he'd come home from golf to make sure I'd done everything. But no, and my dad and mom were both very good about that. I grew up in a comfortable family, but I was 9 years old. I was working. I worked my first job, who I actually, as an adult, ended up going to work for that same company for a number of years, A1 Flood Tech up in DC. So, but it's, the work ethics. Now, I, being a good parent, spoiled my daughter to death. She had to do nothing except for clean her room, and then I'd open up the closet doors and she had to clean her closet. But I really wasn't, she was my little princess. That girl never touched the lawnmower. I'm not even sure she knew what it was. And, vacuum the house never was going to happen. No, she had to rinse her dishes before she put them in the sink. I remember in the dishwasher. And I remember her saying, "But Dad, the dishwasher washes it." I go, "It's a sterilizer." But so I admit my errors in parenting, and I admire yours. How's that for honesty on the show today, huh?
Yeah.
And today my daughter's an epic fail. So she's 27 years old. She's only published 4 books of poetry, and she's on the bestseller list. But that was because of my mom. It had nothing to do with me and my.
That's what she was doing in her room all that time.
Yeah. So if you want to read a great poetry book, my favorite one is 18 Years by Madison Kuhn. And I wrote the title. She wrote the rest of the book. But it absolutely is a beautifully written book of poetry. So, hey, back to you. Guest host.
How do I get
Go
a
ahead.
copy of that?
What's that?
Greg wants a copy of the book.
I want a copy of that book.
I'll give it to you when we go golfing. When you take me golfing.
Deal.
I'll drop it off when I'm going to pick up my Jake's cake.
Oh man, it's really not a one world. We're actually giving people today.
You got to give to get. Greg, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How are you again?
I'm good. Glad to be here.
This is terrific. I'm always sending pictures to your team on the highway. When I see the trucks, I'm passing, I'm like, hey, shooting them over. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about is the legacy part. And you and Kelly kind of touched on that a little bit. Your father, yourself, now your children. How important is that, leaving a legacy for your children and your children's children? But I also heard you say that you're supporting another son in a different venture, in a different business. How do you encourage others who feel like they haven't done such a great job as Kelly kind of alluded to? Like, how would you encourage them to pick up the pace in the legacy and heritage sector?
Well, the legacy, as a family and a company goes through generational changes, the odds of success continue to go down. They say by the 3rd generation, things are watered down pretty good. Usually the kids grow up pretty soft. So what my focus is not just on my children, because I treat them and expect the same of them that I would of anybody else. I don't want to ever be accused of playing favorites or nepotism or anything like that. So, the legacy of to me is the values, the culture, the people within the organization move on. It's got to be bigger than the family. When you get a company with as many moving parts as us, it ain't about a couple of people. It's about a whole bunch of people working in unison together. So, when I think of legacy, I think of not myself, but I think of Best Roofing going forward and about people being part of that legacy, part of that organization. They get to contribute to the team's effort, because that's really what it is. It's truly a team's effort. And I try not to make myself, any more important than I have to, and be able to let other people take the responsibility and move forward.
You mentioned about well, hold on a second. So you mentioned how companies are now into diminishing after they go generation. I do want to take this time to mention Donahoe companies up in Washington, D.C. They've been around now for probably like, I don't know, 110 or 120 years. They're now a multi-billion-dollar a year company. They were a huge client of mine, and they were very helpful on A1 Flood Tech success up in the DC market. But they're like fourth and fifth generationers, like over 30 direct descendants of the founders of Donahoe companies that they're like the one percenters, because you're right. So many after generation, it doesn't, a lot of times it doesn't make it one generation.
Yeah.
A1 Flood Tech did good with two, and then they sold the company, but it's rare to get, but I think it's a lot what you talked about with how you raised your kids and how they did. And, you say Ian's been with the company for 10 years. Ian's been with the company all of his life.
Well, absolutely. He
true.
was in there sweeping the warehouse when he was like 8 or 9 years old. So
he knows roofing, and
yeah,
and it's great that he did. And kids don't have to, follow in their parents' footsteps. But it is exciting when they do and when they excel at it. Whenever I have an issue, I can call up Ian and he picks up the phone like that. And, I'm not getting put on ignored, which isn't something we ever want to have happen. So you have, it's good to see great results. And y'all are huge. I mean, y'all are a huge company. I don't people, understand the magnitude of how large, this little company you started has grown into, and it's exciting. I love seeing stuff like that, and it's still a family owned company. It's not some big conglomerate.
Yeah, they work hard at being the best.
Well,
yeah, that's right.
Boom.
and it's not easy being
Greg,
the best. Trust me, I know. I work with Wayne, so
Well, Kelly, while Greg is looking at his calendar for your next pickup golf game, I have one other point that I want to ask him about.
Go ahead.
Bible study. Greg, I want to talk to you about your faith. I've had lunch with you in your conference room where we've had lunch and Bible study, nuggets and principles, and I appreciate it. Kelly, if you remember, I was like, Kelly, you got to get on 95, and you got to come up here for lunch. And he's like, Shell, the roads are closed down, but Bible study still went on. Greg, your faith, I imagine your faith has kept you. It's been a balance. It's been a foundation for you. This is just going to be my last little point here, my last little question for you, because I really want you to get to your calendar and get that pickup golf game with Kelly. But let's talk about your faith. How has your faith played a role in your success and your drive that you have today, your momentum?
I grew up in a family where, we kind of went to church on Christmas and Easter, and it wasn't like, really that much a part of my life. And when I hit my 30s, and I started, getting confronted with some of life's challenges, after I kind of exhausted everything else, I thought I'd give God a chance. And
Typical.
And that's what happened. Yeah. I mean,
smart.
He had to get me on my knees, and I was going through some tough times, and like I said, I said, okay, God, I'm going to give you a chance. And he was probably chuckling back there going, last resort, huh? Well, I'm going to make you work for this. So
actually what he said was, "Oh, thanks, Greg. Thanks for giving me a chance." That's what he said. I heard
it. I love it. You can always come to him at any stage of your life.
Yeah. So I was fortunate that I had a young guy or fella that was kind of my he was discipling me, and he gave me my first Bible, and he said, "Look," he says, "I know you're a little slow." He says, "Let's start right in the center of the book." And I said, "You're not going to start at the beginning of it?" He says, "No, I want to start. This is a different kind of book." He said, "Bible, you know what that stands for?" And I said, "No." And he says, basic instructions before leaving Earth. Okay, this is the manual. All right, and if you can just learn what's in this manual, you're gonna have a better life. There you go, right there. Basic
I
instructions.
got
for
one
leaving.
bigger.
Yeah.
I get that a lot.
So we started with the book of Proverbs, which is the book of wisdom. And I love it because there's 31 books in the book of Proverbs. If I miss a day, like today's the 31st, I would go to the 31st chapter in the book of Proverbs and I would read that for the day. And that's kind of like how I got my faith journey started. And today, you know, I am discipling my own group of people on their faith walk. So, you know, passing it on is what Jesus, you know, encouraged us to do. Go make disciples of all of us, of everyone. So, no, I've got a great faith walk. It's, you know, the main part of my life, and it's the foundation of myself and my family. So thank you for asking.
That's a great way to finish up. And it's, you know, it's so many people when they're down will reach out to God and say, hey, God, I'll give you a chance because it's not working for me. And then they forget. And you haven't forgotten. And I think that's such a powerful message. Whenever anything good happens in our life, we don't go to Disney. We thank God, you know. You know, I always thought it would be great to win the Super Bowl. And people go, where you're going? I'm going to church, you know,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And you see some of the guys, you know, they'll give it. But I just think it's so important. It really is, you know, but I love the Bible acronym. I love it.
Right.
Basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Before leaving Earth.
I mean, that
Yeah.
is just,
Yeah.
Do I have time for one more like miracle story?
I'm giving it to you, buddy. Come on, let's go.
Okay, so this was about a little over a year ago. You know, we were still in the pandemic and things were crazy, and we had one of our associates within the company, a lady who worked in the service department. I'm not going to say her name because I didn't ask for permission to do this, but
Right.
she wasn't feeling well, and she walked into one of our executives' offices, and she wanted to lay down on the couch because she just wasn't feeling well. And there's a glass wall on it, and along walks one of our associates and looks in, and she's like really pale, actually turning blue. And he goes in the office and she stopped breathing. And I happened to be in the kitchen, which was just around the corner, and you know, screams went out. Somebody, so-and-so stopped breathing. We got to call 911. And this is right in the middle of our office. There must have been like 20 people around. And I happened to be right next to my nephew, Scott, who runs our safety and quality assurance program. And he's great with CPR and stuff. I said, Scott, we need CPR. We brought him in there, and we started administering CPR, and everybody, you know, was around, you know, the whole office is standing around looking at this right in the middle of the office, and she's not breathing. And we called 911, and the paramedics come in, and they, you know, put her up on the meters and stuff. And I mean, she's not breathing, and they take her out to the car or out to the ambulance to the, you know, and she's, you know, she's dead. And I had been down, you know, holding her jaw open while we were administering the CPR. And, you know, after they took her out to the ambulance, I got everybody in a big prayer circle, and I said, we got one chance, just one chance. And we started a group prayer. And 5 minutes later, the paramedic came in and said she started breathing.
Wow.
I witnessed a true miracle. This is somebody who was dead for 20 minutes. And so the power of prayer and the power of faith, just believe it. It's there. It doesn't happen all the time, but I witnessed it. It happened right there in front of my eyes. She was not breathing for 20 minutes and came back after we started that big group prayer. So that's what I'm
Now-
going to leave you with today.
Well, on a serious note, did you make her take leave during that period, or what'd you do?
Here's what was the great part is everybody within the company donated PTO time to her. So
Oh, wow.
while she was in her recovery time, so that she was still getting a paycheck. And that's what's magical about this company is
Gratitude.
the
Right.
people just, take care of each other.
That's an amazing story. Now, is she back at work now?
Yeah, she's back full time now and in great health.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
That gives me a couple
Wow.
of chills. That's the God works.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, wow. None of this was planned. That was a great story. Wow, you kind of got me off my game. But I love that. And so anybody, if you ever want to go by and see Best Roofing, if you have a roofing need, they'll give you a tour. And it really is an incredible facility. If you want to come by and see my 1,500 square foot office, I'm happy to show you that too. But
I prefer to meet him over at Best and have some Jake's cake.
that's right. But we appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to our round our golf in June. Put a deadline on that thing.
Okay. All right. We're going to do it, Kelly.
And I'll bring a bunch of balls. But I appreciate you to be on the show. Wayne up there somewhere, 30,000 square feet. Michelle took care of you. We appreciate Michelle coming on. We'd like to thank our sponsors today is Callaway Blue, Callaway Golf, always Rockin Wellness, Best Roofing. So I don't know if you know about this, but Greg, we have like 20 some sponsors, including Apple and Microsoft. It's all pretend. It's just made it up. And I throw it out there. So
I love the response that you get, though.
I have people walking up to me going, dude, how much are you making off that show? I mean, you got Volvo sponsoring your show? And I'm like, yeah, I send them a lease payment every month. That's how they sponsor me. But guys, have a great rest of the week. It's the 43rd episode is in the books, and it was phenomenal. And I'm going to go practice my golf swing.
Good. Bring
See you,
your A
Greg.
game.
See you, Michelle. Thanks, guys.